Welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. I'm Jurjevich. Joining me this evening is the one, the only Larry Gardner down there in Adairsville, Georgia. And of course, our fabulous producer, Wayne Ridenauer in Memphis, Tennessee, home of Graceland and Elvis. This is, again, ATL Prime Sports. You can find us all on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at ATL Prime Sports. And of course, search Apple and Spotify. Personal Twitters, at JJ Get You One, at RWY Jr. for Wayne, at LG for Real Though for Larry, and at Corder Todd for TC Todd Corder, who is on vacation in the beautiful panhandle of Florida, catching those sunny Florida sunshine rays. I'm doing very well. Excited for the NFL schedule release tomorrow. Several games have already been leaked, like the New Year's Eve matchup, Kansas City versus Cincinnati. That'll be really fun. And the Falcons trip over the pond to play Jacksonville. Wayne, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, but that last race that they had up in Kansas, a little bit of a boxing match started up at the end of that race, and Ross Chastain ended it by touching the other guy's face with high velocity with his knuckles.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I thought Logan Paul was going to pop out, or Jake Paul, one of the two, and be a celebrity boxer there in NASCAR. Yeah. Larry, how you doing, buddy?
Man, everything is well, JJ. Glad to be on another episode and ready to rock and roll. And we had a doubleheader today in Rome, so we've been baseballing it all day long, and was having second thoughts about going to the tourist tonight to try to do it 3 in a row. And I said, nah, sometimes you got to have a little common sense. So 2 was good enough for us today, and we're glad we're able to be on another episode of ATL Prime Sports.
We're glad to have you. I know the Rome Braves are glad to have you as their PA voice. And let's get on with the show. What's on tap? John Fricke, host of 92.9 The Game, will join us this fine evening, and we'll talk some NHL and NBA playoff action. And without further ado, let's bring in our guest, John Fricke of 92.9 The Game. John, welcome to ATL Prime Sports. Thanks for joining us, and how are you doing tonight, man?
Well, it's a beautiful night in Atlanta, beautiful night for baseball. Hopefully the Rays get a little bit of runs here and keep this going on. I mean, 25 wins in 36 games, that's not actually bad.
That's pretty impressive. I think they tie with the 98 Braves for most wins in the first 40 games or whatever it was. So pretty impressive start to the season. That's where I'll start it off with our questioning. Look, I saw a tweet from Jared Carabas that the Braves are 110-52 over their last 162 games. John, is it World Series or bust for these Atlanta Braves?
Oh, yeah, it has been for, 4 years, right, guys? I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, we also, I think there was, last year, I think there was some, chatter at the beginning of the year that, well, the Mets are the favorites in the division, and then there's the Phillies, and then there's the Nets, and then there's it was like, what are you guys smoking? The Braves are the best team in the division. They didn't play like it for most of the year, and then, of course, they got fire in the second half. And then everybody got disappointed. Well, because they have selective memories. They go, well, I know the Braves won 101 games. They hunted down the Mets. They won the division, but, they were out pretty quick in the playoffs, which they were. But there was a reason as to why, and I'm kind of going to be interested to see what happens this year. Is that, that week down, the Phillies, if you get hot, you want to keep playing. And let's not forget, the Braves had to stop for a week. I mean, that is an eternity in baseball. And so they stopped for a week, and the Phillies kept playing. And so, the Braves said, okay, now we got to get going again. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle now, because that was a unique thing last year. The Braves having a week off in between the end of the regular season and the playoffs. We'll see if they can handle that better this year. But, yeah, they are. If they're healthy, they're the best team in baseball. But, of course, right now, what with the injuries and now Max Fried going down, it'll be interesting to see how quick. I kind of held out a little hope that maybe Mike Soroka might get a call up today, but they went with a bullpen game. But now with Cal Wright out, Max Fried out, healthy, they have the best rotation maybe in baseball. They have the best bullpen in baseball. They have a top 3 offense. And then getting rid of Vaughn Grissom means they now have, again, a top 3 defense, and they have top 3 speed. So they're just, I think the Blue Jays are playing great, but all in all, healthy, the Braves are the best team in the game.
John, Larry Gardner here, man. Always glad to hear your voice, and I've always been a fan of your work. 92.9. You mentioned the pitching staff and the injuries to both Freed and Kyle Wright. And I think the one Achilles heel that you probably can agree to as well during this run that the Braves have been on with these 5 division championships is the one thing that's prevented them from being able to get to the World Series or even capitalize on it, with the exception of the one year that they won it, was pitching depth. And when them going down, where does Alex Anthopoulos look to be able to help replenish some of those arms?
Well, I would hope so. I mean, he's proven it in the past, isn't it? Isn't that the irony of what happened in the '90s, when the other issue was they just didn't hit? I mean, yeah, no. Alex Anthopoulos is a magician. You're really fortunate to have, one of the best general managers in the history of the game, and I say that with all sincerity, at the height of his game right now. His ability to retool a 7, 8, 9 bullpen a few years back, right at the trade deadline, and getting, Martin and Smith and those guys, and then his ability to retool an outfield with Soler and Jock and Rosario at the trade deadline. When Ronald Acuna goes down, you won a World Series with Ronald Acuna's not playing, and Mike Soroka's not playing. I mean, think about that. And you won it in impressive fashion, and you went into Houston and beat the hell out of them without those guys. So, you managed to weather the storm without Freddie. You're kind of weathering the storm a little bit without Dansby. But Matt Olson's proven to be pretty darn good. So how many guys, let me ask you guys a question. Let's go around the room here. How many guys right now, because I can think of 5, but maybe there's a 6th, and there could be more, depending on what happens between now and the break. How many certain All-Stars are there from the Braves? I can think of 5. Can you find me a 6th? Anybody want to go first?
Tough question. This is one of the most stacked lineups in Braves history. I said that with our other co-host who's out tonight, Todd Corder, and he disagreed with me. I think from top to bottom, this might be the best Atlanta Braves team, and I say Atlanta, we've ever had. I mean, Sean Murphy's an all-star. You mentioned it. Let's go. Matt Olson's probably an all-star. Ronald Acuna's an MVP, so clearly he's an all-star.
That's 3.
Travis d'Arnaud, before he got hurt, if he comes back and starts hitting like he was raking, that might be your 6th. And
he might be the 6th. I mean, because obviously Fried's strength. I mean, right now you got 5. And Iglesias, who knows? All the way Danny Young threw last night, who knows? How about let's get Danny Young and get rid of AJ. God, AJ, what is going on with AJ Minter?
It's unbelievable how up and down he's been his whole career. It seems like, John, he gets better in the playoffs and pressure gets to him. But, with Iglesias back, he's kind of gone back to that eighth inning setup guy. And I tell you what, last night he did pretty well. We'll see if he can continue that. But, yeah, he is, for lack of a better term, schizophrenic, up, down, left, right. Can't ever get the same AJ Minter that you got down the stretch in 21.
Larry, let me ask you something. What are they saying in Rome in regards to JJ Negro? Has he got any game?
JJ can. He's a lot like what AJ is. I made the nickname for AJ. I call him DJ for Dow Jones because you can't even tell if he's going to be up or down. But JJ, he's got the tools. His issue is location. Like, case in point today, Hunter Riggins, who was the starter for the first game, had a perfect game going, and the manager took him out. Well, one inning, JJ came in for the save opportunity and gave up a home run on his first pitch and then loaded the bases before eventually being taken out. And it wasn't because the velocity or movement on his pitches weren't there. It was simply he couldn't throw a strike. And a lot of the arms in Rome, as a matter of fact, I think from rumblings that I heard after the fact, I think AA was actually in Rome today looking at some of the prospects that they had. Now, the one, A.J. Smith-Shawver, he's going to be a good one, and he just got promoted to Mississippi, but he was lights out. But the majority of the rest of the arms, I have to tell people a lot of times that, remember, the minor leagues are a developmental league, and these kids are trying to develop. And JJ, although he has the name, he needs a little bit of work of being able to locate what he wants to do, because a lot of times he comes in excited and just overpowers. But you know how that happens when you come in and want to overpower it. You tend to run the ball high, and then you lose control, and then you get into somebody's wheelhouse and they take you deep. So, short answer or long answer to a short question, he's got the possibility. He just needs to work on his location.
All right, so let me ask you guys a question, because I'm curious. I know you brought me on as a guest, but the host of me wants to ask all of you to weigh in on something. Walk me through this. All right, so Twitter, especially Braves Twitter. So I want to make sure I have this correct, okay? So you have a team that lost its ace in Mike Soroka for 2.5 years, that has its ace Max Fried on the shelf, that has its 21-game winner Kyle Wright on the shelf, that traded away its all-star short, or let its all-star shortstop and Dansby Swanson walk, that hasn't been able to find a left fielder worth a salt out there, had its DH hitting Ofer Zuna for a month and a half, and lost its backup catcher and kind of the heart and soul of the team until he recently came back. Let's see here. What's their record again? And Michael Harris was out. What's their record again?
The best in the National League.
Here's the question. Why the hell does anybody question Brian Snitker?
It's the fan in us. The fan in us, especially us miserable, downtrodden, ready to light our torch and pitchforks, jump off of the 17th Street Bridge at any sign of faltering. Atlanta Braves fans who are insufferable when things don't, like, we expect, and it's sad to say it, but we expect as fans for the Braves to win 85 to 90% of the contest. And when what we think should happen does not happen, whether or not the Braves win or not, we've got 70 million opinions to 0 as to what we think Brian Snitker ought to be doing. Case in point, Marcell Ozuna. He continues to try them out, and Braves fans were ready to at the stake. And come the Miami Marlins series, he flips the switch. Now, it ain't consistent all the way through, but it looks like he's trying to turn the corner. But until that point, and it's funny because why does Braves Twitter or Braves fans have, mercy with Vaughn Grissom when they see him committing error after error after error after error? But when Marcell he couldn't hit his way through a red paper sack with a rake in his hand, and they're ready to crucify him. So I think it's all perception is reality to most Braves Twitter, and that's causes them to react with such rash decisions when it comes to what Brian Snitker does. That's my opinion.
All right. So, but did I mention that the heir apparent Vaughn Grissom sucked in the field so bad that now they're saying, maybe you have to trade him? And did I mention that Tyler Matzek's out for the year, or that Ian Anderson is never going to come back apparently again because whatever he had, he's gone. What's their record again? See, look, here's the deal. All right. So over Zuna, here's where, and I was critical of that as well, but here's where I think, guys, the over Zuna thing works for them. They have to trade him. Okay, they got to trade him, and they may have to eat a whole bunch of money, but they got to trade him now, and they had to have him do what he did. They had to have him get hot so that somebody will, take him, even if the Braves have to eat half the salary. And maybe you have to put Vaughn Grissom with him, and maybe you have to trot out, these young arms that you're seeing, and have to part with a Dodd or a Lee or who knows. They picked up for whatever reason bring Kobe Allard back. I have no idea, but they did. Or an arm or two in order to get a plus fielder in the outfield, because you've tried White, you've tried Hilliard, you've tried Pilar, you can't try Ozuna. Oh my God, he's a box truck, and of course Rosario has just not panned out. So you're going to have to, with 4 outfielders out there left, you still got to go out and get a left fielder. And now not only do you have to do that, but you may need to get another, because by the way, did I mention Charlie Morton's 92 years old and looking like it? So look through all these things. They're still 25 and 11, and he's going to have to make a trade, and he's got to trade Ozuna, because now that Darno's back, you cannot pay Marcell Ozuna $18 million, $36 million for 2 years to be a DH, because you can't put him in left. He's a box truck, so you can't pay him to DH once every 3 games. Because now with Darno back, you'll have Murphy, Darno at catcher, right? And guess what? who do you want to DH? You want Travis d'Arnaud when he's sitting around to play once every 4 days, or do you want him to go DH, catch? Oh, and then Murphy could DH. You don't need Marcell Ozuna as a waste. He's a bench waste. And you got to trade him. And so you had to show him off. You showcase him. Now you have to bye-bye Von Grissom because you're going to have to give up something, right? So bye-bye Von Grissom because they're going to want him because they'll think he's a project, and he's shown flashes, which is fine. They can have him. I'd rather have Shoemaker anyway. And besides, you can go out and get one in the offseason. And by the way, I think Garcia is actually pretty good. He may not be Dansby, but he may actually have a little more pop and home runs than Dansby does. So I think he's fine. He made some really nice plays over the last couple of games. So he's fine at shortstop. He's not great, but you don't have to have great there. You got all-stars everywhere else. You got to go get a plus-plus fielder in left. You got to go get another starter. So they're going to be making a couple of trades, and Alex knows this, and he might have to go get a setup guy. And don't underestimate how badly they miss Tyler Matzik. And so
that's a big loss for sure.
Anyway,
I was
25 and 11.
I'm sorry, John. I was just going to say, right before we went on air here, I was saying to the guys how I think Alex Anthopoulos has to have it in the back of his head to trade Von Grissom because his bat is elite. His fielding, obviously, I don't know if it's a mental hurdle at this point, but there's definitely something brewing in the works for Alex Anthopoulos. And, folks, you might have to forgive your fanism and say, this might win us a championship if this happens, and that might include a Von Grissom trade. I'm right there with you. Folks, you're listening to John Fricke right here on ATL Prime Sports. You can catch John on Twitter at John Fricke. That's Fricke. Again, host of 92.9 The Game. I'm going to flip the subject here since we only got you for a couple more minutes, John. I want to talk about the Falcons. I think the Falcons drafted fairly well. You and I interacted on Twitter on this a couple times. I thought they would go offense with the first pick, but I was wrong on the position. I thought they would address the wide receiver need. What do you think the Falcons drafted well? Or I should say, what are your thoughts on the draft process and go from there?
Well, I think that Bijan Robinson was third on their board. I actually think he was number one on their board because he was their board in Flowery Branch went Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Bijan Robinson, and they fully knew well that they weren't going to be in the business of Young or Stroud. So that makes Bijan Robinson number one on their draft board. They were never not going to draft Bijan Robinson if he was there. And by the way, I'm kind of glad he was for the main reason that I think Bijan Robinson is going to be a star running back. Tyler Algier is a nice player. Don't get me wrong. We've got Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier is a nice player. Wait till you see this guy. It's sort of like the Matt Olson thing. When Freddie left it, I said, wait till you see how good this Olson guy is. And then they went out and got Sean Murphy, and I said, wait till you see how good this guy is. And then somebody said the most ridiculous thing to me. They called in and they said, John, he played against no defense in the Big 12. He played at Texas. You can't know what he's going to be. Wait, stop. You're saying to me that he played against, first off, the Big 12 defenses weren't that bad last year. I'm glad you weren't paying attention to that. K-State was actually pretty good. TCU notwithstanding that, they were actually okay. They weren't killer good, but they weren't bad. They weren't awful. And I said, by the way, you played at Texas, right? I mean, yeah, but you got to look at the competition. Okay, so it's about the competition level. So if you play at a competition level that isn't Alabama or Georgia kind of level, which, by the way, they don't play Alabama or Georgia. You understand that, right? If you're at Alabama, you don't actually play against Alabama. Okay, you're playing against Vanderbilt. You understand that. All right. Just want to make sure we get that clear. Then I guess that we can go back through history and say, since it's about the competition level, then nobody should have ever drafted Walter Payton or Terrell Owens or Jerry Rice. Or you need me to go on? I mean, what are you talking about? They're HBCU players crying out loud. Why would you want those guys? 1AA players at Chattanooga. He can't be no good. He played at Chattanooga. Consider, who did he play? VMI? I mean, stop it. Bijan Robinson is going to be an explosive back who I think is going to set your hair on fire. And he has such the guts. It's a gutsy move to go out there and say, I want number 7. That's, you know what? That's good. I like that. Love the kid.
I enjoy the pick, too. I think with Cordell Patterson being 32 years old, you fear injury, maybe season ending there. And also, Cordell Patterson came into this league as a wide receiver. Maybe you could put him in the slot and put all three on the field at one time with Kyle Pitts. Now, that'd be a formation that offensive coordinators would just roll their eyes over with all the possibilities you can do there.
Don't underestimate the value of John Smith. I think some people are missing some of the other moves that they made offensively.
Oh, yeah.
Now I don't know if Bergeron's going to be the answer at left guard. I certainly hope he is, because God knows that thing's been a sieve for 7 seasons now. But John Smith is really good. And he didn't have a drop last year. All targets, he caught everything that was targeted. Not a drop, not one. And so you put him in there. So yeah, and I said this the other day on my show, and I said, all right, I'll ask all of you guys. The question is, are we okay on offense? Here's the setup. It's the first snap of the season, okay? Opening game against them. We'll find out tomorrow night who that's against. First offensive snap of the season. We break the huddle. We go up to the line. Ritter is behind center. Behind Ritter is Bijan Robinson. You have John Smith, check it at tight end. Cordero Patterson goes into the slot. Left is Drake London, and they split Kyle Pitts wide right. So you got London, Pitts, John Smith, Cordero Patterson, and Bijan with Desmond Ritter, and then Cordero goes in motion. Are we okay on offense?
I think we're beyond okay. I think that's a great point, and it brings me to my last question for you, and I'll throw it to Larry. I know we're running out of time. I don't want to keep you too long, John. I want to hear your opinion on this. It's year 3 for Arthur Smith. Is he on the hot seat if Atlanta doesn't make the postseason this year?
As long as the team is healthy, yes, of course. I mean, we can't know. I mean, Ritter goes down game 1. Heineke goes down game 2. Who the hell knows, right? You're the 49ers and you're playing, Bijan at quarterback. Who knows, right? I mean, but all in all, with spending $75 million, yeah, of course he is. I mean, in a division that's this winnable, he has no excuse not to win 11 games. None. And he knows it.
I'm shaking my head in agreement. I'm right there with you. I think he's won with less in Tennessee. I mean, for crying out loud, he had Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, and Marcus Mariota, and he won a playoff game there as a coordinator. So I think they've drafted well. I'm right there with you. I know we're running out of time. Larry, you want to throw one last question for John, and then I'll sign him off?
Yeah, John, I want to peg you. I got a either or for you that I heard on another sports media outlet, and I wanted to, and when they told me that you were coming on, I was like, great, I would love to hear his opinion. Which is more likely for Atlanta? 26 or more points a game, or 35 sacks by the end of the season?
Well, boy, not to be somebody who says both, but it's both. And so the question is, which is more likely? I mean, they're going to have more than 35 sacks. And I think that they're a touchdown better on offense across the board. But you can't know. All right, I'll say the 35 sacks because that's a given. I think they'll easily double their sack total, if not go to – they were 21 last year. They could go to a size 50 this year. So I'll have to go that route because we can't know. The one unknown here is the quarterbacking situation. And who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe Desmond Ritter goes out there and chokes. I don't think he will. I think he's going to – I don't think it'll be game by game that he gets better like he did last year, game over game. But I think quarter by quarter, first 4 games, second 4 games, third 4 games. I mean, Taylor Heineke can play too. Let's not forget that he's actually pretty good. And so if they have to go to him, I'm good with that because the Collins Hill kid's got game. But and again, you can't foresee turnovers and things of that nature. Or maybe you have a couple of bad games. Could be games in the snow, depending on the schedule. So because you have some northern aways this year. So I'll go 35 sacks because I think it's a given, even if they don't get to 26 points.
So with that said, then I want to ask my final one, which is, who's the X factor on our defense this year?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Who's going to be the X factor on our defense this year? Is it the signing of Jesse Bates? Is it still AJ? Is it still Grady? Is it is it any of the newcomers that
Trey Flowers, maybe?
Could it be any of the newcomers that our wonderful general manager has brought on in this offseason? Who's your pick for the X factor in our defense?
Well, it better be Calais Campbell. And the reason it better be Calais Campbell is in the locker room in 2016, guys, Hugh Douglas and I, we were going there, and we were there, I don't know how many times they're there every week. They're there for training camp, there for everything. You cannot underestimate when Vic Beasley led the NFL in sacks, you cannot underestimate the value of the veterans along that defensive line who were there with the youngsters. And Calais Campbell, he had other offers. He chose to come to Atlanta. And, you know, what Dwight Freeney meant at one point to that team, and in terms of, you know, helping those young defensive linemen, including Grady Jarrett. Grady will tell you that. So we haven't had that veteran presence. I mean, they brought in Rashaan Evans and Lorenzo Carter last year, but Lowe had to play so much that, you know, he couldn't really, I don't know if he was really, you know, in a position where he was going to, and we're talking about a rookie in Evakady and a second-year guy in Adi that hasn't clicked for him quite yet. But now you look at the R lads and you look at the defense and you see Omanyata and you see Calais and you see, you know, all the changes they've made on defense, including Bud Dupree and Caden Ellis. And we're talking about the front seven, not just all those three guys or four guys that could be new in the backfield there if you include the draft pick. So you see some of those guys who can help with that pass rush. But Calais is a veteran, is a mentor. And now look at our lads and see what you see. Go, you know what you guys should do? Pull it up. Go to open your browser. Pull up Falcons, our lads. And when I get off here, I want you to. I'm going to give you a little thing. Go through the second and third units on defense and see what I'm talking about. Suddenly, those names on the second and third units were the starters last year are now the depth guys. And so suddenly, Evakady and Ade and Taquan Graham and D'Angelo Malone and all of these guys are the depth guys. Troy Anderson, they're all the depth guys. And now they're the depth. And so he just bought himself all this depth here for next man up that he didn't have last year. And now, you know, so, you know, Low Carter goes out, here comes Evakady, and Calais goes out, and here comes, you know, Taquan Graham. I mean, they now have, you know, depth along that defensive line and in that linebacking core. And now, of course, now with the secondary, now with Trey Flowers in that secondary to go with Okudah and Bates and AJ and Hawkins and Grant. And you know what? This team is actually loaded on defense.
It really is. It really is. Well, John, thanks for coming on. I know you're out of time. I don't want to keep you too long. I was going to ask you about your thoughts on the NHL coming to Atlanta, but if you got a couple seconds, throw it out there. If not, I'll sign you off.
Well, they're coming. I mean, they've been saying that for a long time. I just hope when they do come back, they finally do it right. For all you Blue Line fans out there, God love you. And I didn't have anything against, you know, the Thrashers. You know, I loved them. I love Kowalczyk, you know, and Danny, and I know. But I was a Flames fan through and through. First job I ever had in 1979. I got paid $10 a game to cover the Atlanta Flames, and so I was a Flames guy from the jump. And so I miss the Flames to this day. I hope they bring the Flames jerseys back. If they can't get the name from Calgary, you tell Calgary, call it whatever you want. Bring the Flames jerseys back. The Atlanta Flames. I don't care if you just call them the Atlanta Fire or the Atlanta, I don't care what you call them. But bring that red and gold and that block A with the fire in it. Bring that jersey back. That's what I want.
It was a good one. It was a good one. Well, John, thanks for joining us. Tell our listeners real quick how they can find you on Twitter and hear your voice on 92.9 The Game. And again, thanks for coming on. No
problem, guys. And best of luck to you on your show. It's just at John Fricke, Fricke on Twitter, on Facebook, and on the air on 92.9 The Game on weekends now. Don't ask, okay? Don't ask. But okay. And I'll be doing a lot of filling. You'll hear me on every show. You'll hear me on Dukes and Bell. You'll hear me on Andy and Randy. I'll be doing Falcons this fall and a lot of Hawks and so you'll hear me all over the place.
Well, as always, thanks, John, we're big fans. I want to say thanks again for coming on. For Larry, Wayne, and Memphis, I'm JJ. It was a pleasure talking to you. And have a good night.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, John. Have a good day.
As John Fricke of 92.9 The Game. What a great guest. Some great commentary. Good fodder back and forth. Absolutely love the interview. Folks, if you like the content, give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and, of course, the old YouTube. Let's move on with this show, fellas. I really like his comments about the NHL coming back to Atlanta. It'd be really cool if the Flames did make their way back here. NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs have been nothing but exciting. Let's go around these playoffs. Wayne, your Maple Leafs have done it to you again.
Yeah, well,
your quick thoughts, they're down 3-0. They need America.
Well, they're winning right now, but they still got one period to go, so we'll see.
We will see. Elsewhere around in the second round, Hurricanes are up 3-1 on the Devils. The Kraken and the Stars, they're tied at 2. And the Las Vegas Knights are up 2-1 over the Oilers. You know what I think has been pretty amazing about these last couple playoffs here, and going back a couple years to the Vegas Knights, is how expansion teams have come into the NHL and done well right away. And I make the same comparison to Atlanta United in Major League Soccer coming in and winning the championship within 2 years. So a lot of these teams are coming in and not only competing, but competing at an extremely high level. And I thought that was pretty eye-opening. That's my one thing I got for you in these hockey playoffs is and I wish Todd was here tonight because I guarantee you he had some stat about that. But it seems like make an expansion team go deep in the playoffs. Does it not seem like that, fellas, with the Vegas Knights a couple years ago ending their run in the Stanley Cup Finals, and then the Kraken tied right here with the Dallas Stars at 2 apiece?
I think a lot of that, JJ, has to do with the international ability to field the team.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at hockey being a huge international sport, soccer, football, as it is everywhere else, being extremely big time internationally, when you open up an expansion team and you have the ability to sign people from overseas or legit stars, it makes it very easy for you to be competitive right away. Whereas in other sports, like in basketball or even in baseball with the international aspect, of course, you don't necessarily know that you're going to get those top hot prospects on an international level. Because think about, in baseball, they're not Shohei Ohtani's everywhere. You know, he's a once in a generational type player that you haven't seen in ages, since Babe Ruth. So the ability to have talented athletes in both hockey and both soccer make it so easy for you to, when you open up and have a prospective expansion team, that you can really 2 to 3 cycles and you can be competing for a title and throw everything haywire, especially as you see it with Seattle, you know, and as you mentioned with Atlanta United, and then now look at Charlotte being an expansion team, and before you know it, they're probably going to be competitive as well. I just think the international aspect of both of those two sports in particular make it a little bit less difficult to be competitive sooner than the majority of your American-based sports.
I agree with that 100%. Guys, any final thoughts on our NHL playoff talk before we want to get into the nitty-gritty of the NBA playoffs?
No. And in fact, I might not have too much to say about that NBA stuff because Celtics are not doing so well against 76ers, and you know it's making me really not like the 76ers, but I do like them, so I don't know what to think.
Trust the process is what Joel Embiid has always said, and looks like that process is working out pretty well, and that will get us to our NBA playoffs talk, just as you mentioned it, Wayne. Let's go ahead and go over to the NBA playoffs. Continue to impress me. Let's go around these playoffs. In the East, the Heat lead the Knicks, as you just mentioned, 3-1. Our Heat lead the Knicks 3-1. Celtics are down 3-2 to the 76ers, like you mentioned. I was stuttering there today, Junior. West, Lakers shocking the Warriors 3-1 right now, and the Nuggets lead the Suns 3-2. So
Larry's not shocked. Larry's not shocked by those Lakers. I know already.
You know, I'm impressed by the Lakers. They don't shoot the 3 ball very well, and in the day and age of today's game, where you see Steph Curry launching and Trae Young launching from 33 feet all the time, it's very unique to watch. They're working it down low to AD. Dishing it back out to Schroeder and LeBron's doing what he's done his whole career, making his teammates better, and it's been very fun and intriguing to watch. They're doing it with physicality, they're doing it with athleticism down low, and guys, it's kind of taking me back to the early 2000s a little bit, and I can't lie, I've been glued to the television. It's been an intriguing NBA playoffs, and I kind of thought the Warriors would get hot, shoot everything over everybody, make everything. Draymond Green would get his technical fouls, and we'd all be dancing into the streets for a dynasty, their fifth, and talking to Steph Curry passing LeBron James. Now, LeBron James has taken his foot and stuffed that right back down everybody's throat, and it's actually been fun to watch. I can't get enough of it. I really can't. The old school physicality and the way the head coach of the Lakers is slipping my mind. Former assistant for the Falcons, Hawks, excuse me. But it's been extremely fun to watch these NBA playoffs, and hats off to the Lakers. Hey, Jack Nicklaus came back on, the actor, sitting there in his seat. You know, he's even getting back into it. Snoop Dogg's back into it, and they're talking on Undisputed. And when the Lakers are this good and making this much noise, it's good for the NBA. Larry, your thoughts?
Yeah, on both ways. Anytime the Lakers and the Celtics are both good, it's always good for the NBA. But the thing that has set this series apart is Darvin Ham is utilized the best two-way player in the league when he's healthy, and that's Anthony Davis. Golden State does not have an answer for him when he's healthy. Conversely, the absence of Jordan Poole for the Warriors is what's really been their Achilles heel, because when Steph and Clay needed rest and needed someone to come in to be that third or fourth scorer, Jordan Poole was able to do so. It's really been Steph and Clay, and even when Clay's off, maybe Wiggins every now and again. But the Lakers have been able to exploit that because LeBron is still LeBron. And at 38, what he's doing, even at this level, still playing, and even though this is the first season in his entire career where he did not garner at least one MVP vote, in these playoffs, he's teaching these young boys what it takes to win championships. And I'll tell you another point that you can even throw into it. Notice these teams that are still playing that people would not be playing.
Yes.
Years ago, the teams in the bubble.
Yeah.
Denver with Jokic and Murray. The Heat with Jimmy. Everybody knows the meme where they've seen the picture with Jimmy leaning over the sideline bumper after then giving everything he's got. LeBron and AD finally winning the ring. I'm telling you, it taught people how to win basketball with matchups and adjustments. And I really think the Miami Heat and the NBA really does not want this. If there was a Denver-Miami NBA final, the NBA office would lose its mind. It would essentially lose its mind because they can't sell Nikola Jokic versus Jimmy Butler. Can't sell it. Okay.
Yeah, well,
you know,
I'd love to watch that though. Personally, those are the ones that get me going.
Oh, agreed.
The matchups, the eighth seed, the lower seeds. It's just been so entertaining, Larry. And you're nodding your head. I love a good underdog story. How many times have we talked about what was it? Up until the Heat made the finals, and then you had the 6 seed Rockets do in the 90s. It's been a top 3 seed to win a championship every other year, and even be in the finals. It's been a top 3 seed minus those 2 guys. So it's absolutely eye-opening to me and refreshing nonetheless. And I hope I didn't cut you off, Larry. Wayne, you got a comment? Go ahead and get in.
Well, I was going to say, Larry was talking about what matchup would cause the front office to lose their mind, but I think the lowest they'd be willing to go and find it acceptable is if it were the Sixers and the Suns in the final. I think they would accept that. It wouldn't be their first choice, but I don't think they'd lose their mind over it.
No, not at all, because you can sell that,
Yes.
Like with Phoenix, you can sell KD and you can sell Devin Booker. So
yeah,
that's not a problem at all. Eastern-wise, you can sell just about everybody in the East that's available, with the exception of the Knicks. You really can't sell anybody on the Knicks. The thing that sells that is the city that it's in, Having the finals at Madison Square Garden, that would sell.
Yeah.
But most people give Eric Spoelstra credit, man. The dude is a zen. He's I'm gonna start calling him the little Zen master because the adjustments that he makes in game and from game to game might just be one of the smartest, most intelligent coaches left in the playoffs. And I think Missouri for the Celtics, I think that's the thing that's really setting him back is the moment is starting to get too big for him because he doesn't know how to adjust from game to game, and it's exposing some of the weaknesses that the Celtics do have, even though they can shoot the lights out. JJ, you know this as well as I do. If you live by the three, eventually you will die by the three. Yeah. And that's exactly what's happening to the Celtics. Embiid and Harden are just pick and rolling them to death, and they can't do anything with it.
It's awesome. It really is awesome. I mean, you're seeing all these twos go in. The field goal percentage is up. This is basketball to me, folks. This is absolutely great to watch. NBA playoffs will continue on for, another 6 months, it seems like. No, yeah. Just teasing. But, folks, let's go from one JJ to another JJ who's in the news. One of my favorite college players of all time, JJ Redick, 15-year NBA vet, found out was interviewed by the Toronto Raptors for their head coaching position. Thoughts on the possibility to coach in the NBA? I'll tee this one off. I think it'd be a great hire. I mean, we've seen this happen recently with Jason Kidd, who goes straight from the court to the coaching, and he's done fairly well with it. Look, current NBA analyst for ESPN, great mind, great basketball mind, and of course, his career at Duke under Coach Krzyzewski. Obviously, he's got a great mentor to call in Coach K to maybe help him out a little bit. And I'm sure that would actually be a call if he gets the job, is to maybe build under Coach K, maybe find a way to get Coach K in the building here and there. That might be a thought process. But look, J.J. Redick's the 2006 National Player of the Year in college at Duke. He was targeted by the Celtics in 21 for an assistant position, which I was not familiar with till I read the ESPN article today, informing me deeper of this coaching interview. But I think he'd be pretty good. I mean, he's got a great basketball mind. He's very likable in the NBA. He's been on several teams, never heard a complaint, and guys like to play with JJ. So I think he'd be a pretty good hire. Larry, what you think? And then we'll go to Wayne.
No, I'm good. I'm right there with you, man. I think it would be a good hire. The question is the front office in Toronto going to be patient enough for him to get in there and to develop the roster that they have, or will this be a season roster overturning there with the Raptors front office where they start to deal off Pascal Siakam? You know, will Fred VanVleet still be on the roster? Will there be major changes? Where they say, okay, maybe we just had a bad season with injuries and whatnot. Let's see if we can get JJ here, give him a year, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. All these coaches who were NBA title-winning coaches, Coach Bud, Nick Nurse, all being fired within a year or two of winning the ring.
Oh, too, yeah.
So that being the case, are we in a position where it's great for JJ that he gets the job, but is the front office going to be patient enough to allow him to get in, do what he needs to do to try to develop and get that team to a level of competition to where they're competing again for titles in the East?
That's a good point. That's a good point, because we all know NBA front offices will use the head coach as a scapegoat almost quicker than any other league in American professional sports. Wayne, what are your thoughts? You're a college basketball fan. You remember J.J. Redick and his amazing ability to shoot the ball behind the arc at Duke. What do you think about his ability to coach an NBA franchise, and your thoughts on the hire, if he gets hired, or even the interview in general?
Well, if I were Toronto, I would hire him well before I would hire John Calipari, who evidently is always hunting to get back in the NBA.
I like it. Yeah, we're all in agreement. Look, I think JJ's a great guy. You never saw a bad side of JJ Redick, no matter what team he was on, whether he was playing in the finals with Dwight Howard. I think it was that might have been a little before his time. Am I wrong, or was that one of his rookie seasons down there in Orlando? Did he get to the finals with Dwight Howard?
I can't remember.
I'm not sure, but I can find it out for you real quick, fast.
Yeah, look that up. I feel like he did play in the finals one time with Dwight Howard. I might be a little early on his career. He may have still been in college at the time, but I like it. If he is hired, I think he'll knock things out of the park. Again, he's got a great mentor. He can pick up the phone. Coach K, who's coached LeBron James, Kobe Bryant in gold medal games. So, look, I love the pedigree of J.J. Redick, and I think he'd do great in Toronto. Guys, any final thoughts on the NBA before we move on?
Nope.
He was drafted in 06, JJ. He was drafted in 06.
So okay, so he was drafted in 06. So I think that might have been a little bit after those finals. So I was a little wrong there. Again, I was jumped the gun on it, but he's had a great NBA career, and hats off to J.J. Redick if he does get the job. I think he'd do great there. I think we all agree with that. Let's go our final thought. Wayne, why don't you start off our final thought for the show this evening?
Well, my only final thought is I hope Toronto can hold out and, at least win this game and extend the series. But I'm starting to get that old Toronto feeling again. So,
Larry, final thought for the show, my friend.
Yeah, man. My final thought is simply this, man. We live in such a society that is so quick to cancel everybody. And no, we've had a couple of instances where prominent people, whether it's the Oakland A's announcer or even with Bob Huggins, saying things that are slurs and things that, ordinarily in this day and age is an automatic cancel, fire, dispose, and whatnot. I hate that we've gotten to a level in our society that forgiveness is second thoughts. They don't even think about being forgiving, or if people just don't make mistakes. And every mistake that people make, even if it is intentional sometimes, is always worthy of an immediate termination or an immediate canceling of the culture. Sometimes it's better for us to use and utilize a heart of forgiveness, because he who was without sin, let us cast the first stone. And most of us, if the truth be told, if we open our closets, there's some skeletons in there that you don't want nobody else to know about. So my final thought is just simply, I wish that we were in a more forgiving type mindset and culture when it comes to sports, because we all make mistakes, even intentional ones that you don't necessarily want to call it a mistake. I just wish that we were in a level-headed society that would execute and show forgiveness more often.
Yeah, it goes for everything, not just sports. That would be a great thing if we could push that
all the way down the road there. Wayne, Larry, I agree with you both there. 100% agree. I think we jump down people's throats for making simple mistakes way too often. And just like you said, the Bible verse, look, not everybody's perfect except for the man upstairs who gave his life for us here on earth. So, folks, I'm right there with you. My final thought comes back to the University of Georgia, where Devin Willock's father has filed a lawsuit against the University of Georgia. The lawsuit also names Eagles defensive lineman Jalen Carter, LaCroix, who is the driver of the vehicle's estate, and Toppers International Show Bar. If you know Athens, it's the only strip club there. And that is where the group was assembled before the crash took place. So, folks, take off your fan goggles and realize that Georgia could be at fault for this. And it could get ugly, folks, because I think seeing how the kids were in a UGA-issued car, they might have some fault at this. And take your goggles off, folks, and realize this is a serious situation where two people lost their lives. And someone needs to be held accountable for these children, for lack of a better term right here. Children were lost, and daughter and a son were lost. And it's just an unbelievably ugly situation. My thoughts and prayers go out to the LaCroix and the Willock family as this lawsuit does go through. And Georgia fans, again, take off the goggles, take off the fanism, and look this through the forest and say, there may have been some at fault at the University of Georgia. That's my final thought, guys. What a great show. I want to say thank you to John Fricke for coming on tonight. Didn't have to do that, and he did. What a great guy. Some great takes. For Larry in Adairsville, for Wayne in Memphis, I'm JJ. For Todd Corder, who's on vacation, get you one of these, folks. Have a great night. Thanks for listening.